giving birth over there?
You know what? It just felt like the right thing to do for episode 495. Hello, Sarah.
495, and we're feeling alive.
We had another brainiac write in who was so nice about us, but she, like so many people, thought that I was Sarah and you were Susie. And that cracks me up.
I can't imagine that at all.
What is it
Like,
about
when you
our
see
voices
it?
that seem wrong? Mismatched.
That is so funny to me. Because I can't, when I think about your picture and like my voice coming out of it, it seems like somebody who would be doing it, like a man doing a voice of a woman. You agreed with that way too fast, too.
Because it's true. You
had that on deck.
Richer, like more robust voice. Mine is tinny and empty and hollow, just like my soul. I don't know.
Oh my God!
I don't get it. But
that it's interesting.
We're gonna have to do some sort of chart or something.
And also, it's been a little bit of right. It's been a little bit of time since we have been together and taken some photos. Yeah. So also, I feel like we even look more different now because my hair's darker, more different. That's how you say that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I worry. And so I feel like maybe, like, you don't think that this voice goes with curly hair?
Yeah, come on.
Come on.
That's a curly voice.
This is a curly hair voice. Or maybe when we're talking, they don't know. No, they got to know that.
And they have to know that I'm the asshole because everyone knows you're nice. I don't know what I have to do to make this more clear.
Oh, that's right. Unless you are a tour guide in Brazil who is lying about the prices of the tour, in which case I will be the asshole and wave the water bottle. And you know what? I wasn't being an asshole. I was merely fighting for justice.
Right.
So,
you just wanted what was owed to you.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Holy.
Well, just so we're clear, I am Susan and she is Sarah. Make no mistake about it.
That's right. We're here.
Okay, so let's talk about some stuff, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
One thing I wanted to add, because I felt like our Britney Spears conversation was incomplete.
It was, because I hadn't watched it yet, and I did.
Okay, what are your thoughts now that you've seen it?
I definitely understand what you meant about the paparazzi, and I'm extra mad at them. It's even more... the system, you know how when we watched that horrible the case about the little boy who was beaten and killed, and it was more about the system and the California child services system.
Yes,
this is what that felt like. That there is a fucked up system in place where she is paying for the lawyers who are fighting against her?
Yeah.
That's not right. And anybody with half a brain can see that. Right?
That's what's weird, because I was talking to my mom about it. My mom knows nothing about pop culture, but when you just sort of like...
Which you'd never guess looking at her.
That's so true.
You'd be like, this lady has definitely been front row at a B. Spears concert.
Woodstock. Right. Like that guy in L.A. that's asked her if she wanted any pot. Because she looks like a total hippie.
She looks like a hippie.
But anyway, I was telling her about it. And anytime you explain what's going on, people are like, well, why doesn't the judge do something? Like, it just seems so obvious.
That's my question.
So maybe there is information we don't have, whatever. But I read this quote that a scholar said, and he said, we as a culture have a particular loathing towards women who get rich because we can't stop looking at them.
Ooh.
And I got chills. I was just like, oh.
This is what happens to models when they age.
Right?
I feel like there's that attitude towards them. You need to be away. You're too old.
Yes. And it's like, even just how people feel about Kim Kardashian.
Yep.
They love her because she's something, but then they hate her too. I mean, I don't
Is
mean
this a
they, it's all
self-comparison
of
thing?
us.
Right. I think it's got to be that we compare. We do this like, I see them.
And like, you're getting rich because I can't control the fact that I need to see you.
Wow.
It's
and
weird.
It's those men. Ugh.
Right? I thought that was insightful. And
really is.
Obviously, this wouldn't be happening if she were a man, a 40-year-old man.
Never, ever. And I loved what, what's his name? He was on Drew Carey's show, and he had a late night show.
Dietrich Bader?
Nope.
No.
Ferguson.
Colin. Oh, yeah, that
Ferguson.
guy.
Yes, and he
the
did.
late night guy. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And he did Craig Ferguson, something like that.
Yeah.
And he talked about how the night that he saw the news report about Britney Spears, he did a monologue about it. And he said that he was 5 years sober that night, or 10 years sober that night. And when he saw that stuff about Britney Spears, he understood where she was then and what was going on and what she really needed and what he doesn't know if it's drugs or alcohol or, mental health, but he knows that she needs help. And it was like the only person who was really real. Oh, God, it makes me sad just thinking about it.
Wasn't it
just
striking?
Like pain, and we just
in that
pointed.
monologue, whenever he mentioned Anna Nicole Smith and everyone laughed and she had died. And he's like, it's not a joke. Like, you have to say that to the audience. Don't laugh at the dead lady. Like, it's insane.
Oh, because, yeah.
And I think it's also on my mind because, like, this was all happening when I was on the show. Mm-hmm. Like, I was on in 1998, and then her breakdown was, 2005, I think?
Yeah,
so it was like
maybe
those
4,
6 years were her rise and fall. And I had experienced similar questions about my sexual activity or lack thereof, and my virginity and all of that. And you become like the girl next door, but people like, it's just a weird place to be. So whenever I think about it, it's like in the context of my own experiences at that time and blah, blah, blah. You get it.
So similar. Yeah. And I can't, just that label, anytime other people want to define who you are, it is going to fuck with us. Mm-hmm. Whether that's in your own family, oh, you're like this, or whether that's what, on a bigger scale, when you imagine when you're out in the world, oh no, you're like this. And then you get people who like co-sign those, like freaking Justin Timberlake.
I forget if I was talking to you about this, but I was saying how weird it is when you're cast on the shows we were on, like for a particular character, as we are, and then you're not that anymore. Like, I'm not a virgin anymore. I'm not a Republican anymore. I'm not a Christian, a born-again Christian in that way anymore. And how then you're like, well, who am I? And are people okay with that? Identity is so important. And whenever you're in the public eye and you're supposed to be one thing, but you don't identify in that way anymore, it's really troubling.
And being able to say, no matter what, am I okay with who I am? That's what we have to focus on. What do I feel to be okay with who I am and feel proud of who I am, despite what other? It's a journey of a lifetime, and it can really throw you off course when you have all of the world trying to define you. Oh,
yeah.
God,
So
thing.
it was one of those things
sad.
where it sticks with you. I'm sure everyone that watched it felt that way. And maybe it caused you to have sleeplessness, which we all are experiencing right now, unfortunately.
Yes. Give me the cure.
But as you guys know, I'm always looking for a good night's sleep. And thankfully, we have a partner named Proper, which I think you guys are going to love. They have these, basically a dietary supplement, a capsule that can help you get better sleep and reduce everyday stress. And the thing that made me drawn to it is that it has that GABA product in it, GABA, which is what I take in the day to help with anxiety. And if you can get, like, it's the same stuff that's in fermented whatever. Like
all
kimchi. Remember how we learned about how kimchi and pickles and stuff can help you
reduce anxiety, like suck on a pickle.
Same thing.
Yes.
And so they have all different ones like Sleep Plus Restore. I love Sleep Plus Calm because I'm a wound type
I like
people.
the Sleep Plus Immunity.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They have stuff for mental clarity. But it's just great to have something that can help you fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, wake up refreshed, all that good stuff. They're vegan and clinically proven to improve sleep without making you groggy. Find out how it feels to finally get a proper night's sleep. Just go to getproper.com, and right now our listeners get 10% off your first order, but only when you use our special promo code BrainCandy. Don't forget, that's promo code BrainCandy for 10% off at getproper.com. I was just telling Adam how, like, now that I'm not in California and I can't just, like, pop an edible. Hello.
Oh, right.
I mean, that was an easy fix, so this is such a good alternative to all that jazz. Okay.
Yeah. A good night's sleep. Man, that's a dream.
Good night's sleep. I know. That sounds nice.
Sounds lovely. I'll take it.
Okay. Let's talk about where are you with OnlyFans these days? Like, what are you thinking about OnlyFans?
Well, not a member, not a subscriber, or follower, or fan of anybody's.
I want to see what it's like, though. I've never been been on it.
Yeah, it just feels like, if anything, it's more. I see it maybe as. It's so weird to me that we've normalized sex in a way where we're like making. I bet a lot of those OnlyFans accounts, like the people who run it, will say, "Oh, it feels like a community, and everybody knows the members, and like blah 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 blah," and it's more than just like nudie pics. I'm sure. And we allow it there, and it's like become normalized in so many ways. But then we're like, don't talk about sex. Don't let women have like it just seems like we're getting very mixed messages.
It kind of put a magnifying glass on how we're so often consumers of porn or strip clubs or whatever, but the people that profit off it, it's like the Britney thing. Like the people that profit off it were like, ew, and judgy and whatever. And it's like OnlyFans has made it so mainstream now that it's sort of like putting a magnifying glass on it.
We all do it. We all consume it. We all love it. We're all like, yeah, let's have some sex. And then if somebody wants to make money through it, it's because it's women.
That's what is so weird. Like, why aren't we judgy about men giving their money to a stripper or a prostitute or whatever?
Because guys are just jealous that they can't.
I swear.
Because no woman wants to pay for that. Maybe some of them do. But.
Right, like Chippendales or What's Magic Mike, all that stuff. It's more of like a laugh than
you do it once and it's like fun, but it's not like you need it for your, sexual appetite to feel satiated.
Well, I read this article. It was in the New York. Wait, let's see. I think the article I read was in the New York Times, but there was an article in the New York Post that outed a paramedic in New York for having an OnlyFans, a woman paramedic.
Oh, okay.
And they were just like writing this article without her participation or agreement. And it caused a big outcry. Even AOC called the paramedic and was like on her team and saying like, hey, we support you. But can you imagine how humiliating that would be possibly if you didn't mean for this to be a public thing and then you might lose your job as a paramedic just because you put some pics online?
Right.
I hate it.
I hate it too.
It makes me mad.
You know what? Because it's saying that you, like, there's nothing that makes her worse of a paramedic because she also makes money showing her tits or whatevs.
Right?
She can still do that job. And holding women, saying that, like, you can lose your job because of your outside activity, like, that is perfectly legal and perfectly fun. Like,
and unrelated to your job.
And unrelated to your job. Because, like, I know some firefighters who've done some fucked up shit. And they're still fine. They're like, like, what's the difference? Like,
I think it should be required that all firefighters have an OnlyFans.
Hell yeah. See, that's how we get the women a little more interested. You could just get kittens out of a tree. I'll pay for that. That's cute.
Right. You don't even have to get naked. Just show me how you're a hero.
Right. Just come over and fix my sink.
That is hilarious. Right?
That's why we don't pay for that, because
But she ended up shuttering her OnlyFans because of this whole ordeal. And it's just crappy, man. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have to do that if you want to have an OnlyFans.
And she's a paramedic. You know what? Speaking of firefighters, they all do those fucking calendars. Right. They do the firefighter auctions. It's okay when we glorify sexy firefighters, but you want to talk about a sexy paramedic and now it's not allowed?
Right.
If she gave money to charity, would it be allowed? The posters and the calendars?
They don't want her to make the money.
She can't make the money.
How gross is that?
That's getting grosser and grosser the more we talk about it.
I feel bad for her, but, I mean, the patriarchy, man.
Fuck the patriarchy, man.
We should be used to this, but we're not.
Yeah. No, we're not. It's surprised, but not more. You just have to call it out.
Truly, you would think all of these episodes of us talking about it would be therapeutic. Yeah. It isn't, because even what's happened during the pandemic, how 30 years of feminism and striving for equality in the workplace was undone in 9 months in terms of women employment and
oh my God.
Domestic equality. Undone.
Oh God.
I know, I'm a real downer today.
That is it shows that there wasn't a lot of progress made to begin with, if it could just be undone that fast.
That's what all these articles I've been reading have been saying, that it was sort of an illusion.
It was an illusion.
It's
oh, okay, here you go. You have some power. Look at her.
Right. They threw us a bone. We fell for it. I read this article by Hannah Rosen, who wrote a book called, I think it was called The End of Men.
I know Hannah Rosen. I know that name.
Yeah. And then the article was called The End of Men, because she was saying, I was wrong. It wasn't the end of men. All the, how they would cite these statistics, there are more women going to college and making more money than their husbands, whatever. And then now she's like, I was wrong. We were on faulty ground. There wasn't a firm foundation, and we lost it all.
Yep.
I know. I'm a real barrel of laughs.
God.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, this is probably a good segue, because that's a downer. There is a new company that, since we were talking about OnlyFans and all that jazz, there's a new company that wants to make pleasure more in keeping with the needs of women. So,
I love this.
It's called Dipsea, and Dipsea wanted to provide people, and especially women, with sexy stories to get them wound up.
This is my favorite thing.
This is my favorite thing.
This is what I prefer over porn way more.
As soon as I found out about it, I thought of you, because
this is what I love this.
Right? Because for women, a lot of times what gets their motor running is the narrative.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Just put some sexy words on the page.
Correct.
You're getting hot thinking about the narrative.
Dipsea is an audio app full of short, sexy stories to turn you on.
Oh, my God.
And you can pick them based on what you're into, of course.
Hello.
And you can learn more about yourself, what turns you on, bedtime stories, soundscapes. Yes. If you just want to relax, you can do that too.
This is also great if somebody wants to learn how to maybe spice up bedroom talk.
That's what I'm saying.
It's really good for inspiration for that.
It's great. And it's
I'm so excited
adult
about this.
Bedtime stories, but sexy. Okay, so for our listeners, Dipsea is offering a 30-day free trial when you go to dipseastories.com/braincandy. That's a 30-day free trial when you go to DIPSEA stories.com/braincandy, patreon.com/brainkitty. Try it for a month.
I can't wait.
Get some pleasure.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
We deserve it, man.
We deserve it. I'm going to tell that paramedic, hey,
yeah.
go to Dipsy. Okay.
Take a dive in that ocean.
Okay, so I saw this TED Talk, but I put an asterisk next to that because I really am not sure whether it's a true TED Talk or like a parody of a TED Talk. It looked real to me in terms of like the way the video is formatted and like the music at the beginning and stuff. But then I wasn't sure because it was posted on Vimeo by the Groundlings, which is, the improv group. But I don't know. I'm just going to assume it's legit, even if it's not, because the content within it, while unusual, it actually got me thinking. So here's the story. He went to all these years of school and like realized that the alphabet song is stupid. True.
I agree.
I swear to you, this is the TED Talk. And he was like, why are we trying to teach kids this impossible random list of letters instead of like in a more sensical way?
How they associate, because they don't really ever relate in order.
Yeah, and he's like,
I understand
NMNLP? Come on. Nobody even
Come
gets
on,
that right. And so he was saying like he created a different song, which by the way is very catchy, and by the end you're kind of like singing along with it, and he groups the letters into what makes sense to him. And what makes sense to him is the first group was letters with curves, so letters like the letter S and J, and then he did a group of letters with, I'm not joking, holes in them, like P and B and O.
Okay.
And then he did a group of letters with straight edges. And then he broke those ones down. I know. He broke those ones down by like a separate subcategory of letters that can hold water, like the letter W.
W.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then letters that are stable, like the letter I.
Uh-huh. L.
Like floor to ceiling, and then letters that are likely to fall. I think that was actually L was in that category, like they could tip over.
Yeah.
And then the letter A was the last one. But it was like,
you know what? I'm kind of liking it.
You would.
I know. And I swear to God, I had, of course, because I do weird things like this. I had this thought the other day when I was in the bathroom. I was like, our alphabet's pretty cool because, like, a lot of the letters are just other letters with, like, a P is an upside down B, and, like, then you, like, take that A and you just elongate that, and that's the P, and then you just add a little thing, and that's a Q, and that.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, I was like, damn, that was smart of them to just use I wonder, I just had, like, a moment where I was like, props to those guys or whoever did that.
Oh, my God,
and,
those guys.
So I...
Like
and by guys, I also mean women. So,
yes, right.
Because that's what I mean by guys all the time. I'm never going to stop saying that, which is unfortunate, but what else?
I just thought...
Yeah, so I get that. And even as you say it, like W that holds water, and then it starts with a W, and now as like a kid, as I'm thinking it, I can imagine those letters in my head better because you're creating a visual. I'm for this. I get this. I see it. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do think he makes a good point about the fact that the ABC song really is just sort of nonsensical. Yeah. There is no rhyme or reason why they're ordered that way. I don't know.
I was just going to say, why do they go in that order?
Right. I do think it was just random. Although...
Why don't we ever ask that?
Yeah. Maybe
because it also has nothing to do with the keyboard.
Well, that's the other thing. The person that tweeted about this referenced how we type wrong too. Do you remember how they figured out that there's a better way for the keys to be laid out on a keyboard, but we'd never changed it because it was just like too much trouble?
Fuck. I do not know that.
This teletypist found that it was 30% faster to do it this other way.
Oh my God.
And the guys were like, we're going to keep it. I know.
Oh, it was a woman who came up with that idea?
Yeah.
Oh, go figure. Jesus Christ almighty.
And I thought that's a good point, because what is the reason that they're ordered that way. I don't think there is one. And so at least he has a reason behind it.
Yeah.
But it did feel
I can
silly.
see it. I get it. And you know what? That's what really good ideas feel like, though.
That's what Elon Musk said. He says that like, well, and, but I mean, he does have some good ideas. The guy's not a total weirdo. And he says, be prepared for people to think you're nuts. Mm-hmm. And he's probably right.
Well, and I was going to say that I don't even have a bunch. We can expand on this later. But I was watching a documentary the other day called The Connected Universe. And it was about how this guy who's a physicist, he is building upon Einstein's theories and other theories of the past on this unified theory of everything. And talking about, we know this is fact, that there's, even though we look at stuff and it's a solid, there is so much space in between. The space in between protons, of actual stuff, we have matter, proton stuff that's measurable, and then there's this in-between space, right?
Yeah.
If you were to take out all of the in-between space in everything on the planet, just our planet, and condense it down to make it so there was no gaps in between, you know how big it would be? The size of a sugar cube.
What?
Uh-huh.
I don't like it.
I know. It blew my freaking mind.
That makes me uncomfortable.
And it was just wow, that idea is so simple. We know that. But then
what do we
really
do with that information?
He was saying that this shows the connectivity between everything, and how there's this energy that flows between all of us. And Tesla said that we should think of the world not as solid, but we should think of it in vibrations, frequencies, and waves. And that is everything, is really vibrations, frequencies, and waves. And at a particle level. And when you think about that, what kind of energy are you giving off and receiving, and where can you feel connected? We feel it in nature. We all know that feeling when we are connected, when you it feels kind of like a buzzing in your body. That is when you don't have any, that energy can flow very well through you. And then we have things we were on our phones, and we're stuck inside, and we're in our heads, and we're thinking about that we're not present, we're in the future or the past, and blah, blah, blah. Then that we get kind of cut off from that flow of energy, and just kind of focusing on the connection and the oneness with everybody,
I know
peace and love, man.
Already talked about it, but I'm still just chomping at the bit for whenever they legalize microdosing of psychedelics for treatment of depression and all that jazz, because it does what you're saying.
Yes.
It resets your brain. It makes you see things from the 30,000 feet.
Yep. Oh, it's so important to do that. When we get zoomed in, it is so hard. They use that as an example. They say it's like looking at a tapestry, like a rug, one of those that has a beautiful image on it. And if you just look at one of the fibers, you don't get any information. You got to pull way back and see that it's even, to what it even is. And then you see the picture that will emerge and what those things are all made up of.
But it's sort of sometimes we need help getting there. And that's why I think the work that they're doing to get microdosing, I don't know, what do you call that? Uniform, so that it can be done as medicinal. It's going to be great.
It really will.
We're not far away from it.
We're really not. Yeah.
I do wish things would speed up. Even the the marijuana legalization. I'm come on, people. Who is fighting this?
I don't know. Well, the drug companies. My mom would say, the man who's trying to keep you from accessing your, that knowledge that you have inside of yourself to, feel good.
For
and
real,
to not
drug companies are lobbying against.
Oh, for sure.
I did not know that.
Oh my God. For sure. And a bunch of people want to keep that. Oh yeah. Tobacco company.
Wow. Wow, I hope we make progress on that. What we have made progress on, however, is cat litter.
Yes, this is like, duh.
Right. Thanks to the good people at Kitty Poo Club, we got it all sorted over here, which, by the way, we got a new cat.
Wait, what?
We did. Her name's Ethel.
Oh, Susie, I had a cat named Ethel growing up.
You did?
Yes, I did.
That's
And we had a dog named Lucy and a cat named Ethel.
That's adorable.
Suze, this is very exciting news. I cannot wait to meet Ethel. And I'm so excited she has a nice new litter box to get to know.
That's right. Ethel is sitting pretty because of Kitty Poo Club, because they take out they take care of the more unpleasant parts of cat ownership, and they send you a box.
The unpleasant part.
That's so true. There really only is that. They send you a box, and it has high-quality, recyclable litter box that pre-filled with the litter of your choice, and then you just open it up. They go in there, and then you can compost the box and get rid of the litter at the end of the month, and then they send you a new one. You can customize your order based on how many cats you have, what type of litter they prefer. No risk guarantee, so you can easily customize or cancel anytime. Give yourself the gift that keeps on giving the whole year, a Kitty Poo Club subscription. Right now, Kitty Poo Club is offering you 20% off your first order when you set up auto ship by going to kittypooclub.com. Enter promo code BrainCandy. Just go to kittypooclub.com. Enter promo code BrainCandy to get 20% off when you set up auto ship. That's kittypooclub.com. And don't forget to enter promo code BrainCandy at checkout. I think it's funny that Adam... when he'll text me about Ethel, he, for some reason, spells it like ethyl alcohol.
ATHYL.
Yeah. And I'm like, does he think she's named after booze? Or what?
Oh,
but I kind of love it.
That's funny. That seems very like gender fluid of a name, too, when you spell it like the alcohol.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like Ethel.
And I'm not good with that. Like, I refer to my cats by whatever gender.
Me
I don't care.
too. I do not care either. And like the other day, I was I'm going to visit my mom in Costa Rica, and I'm taking my baby Bo with me. And so I was calling the airline to get that all sorted, and I referred to like they referred to him as he, or Bo she as he, and so I started doing it, and I was like, I don't care. And then, like, I really don't. And then sometimes we'll be out for a walk, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, your dog, he's so cute." And I'll be like, "Oh, it's a she," but like she doesn't mind.
Well, I do.
She's
think
never
it's funny.
offended.
Pet owners usually are pretty sensitive about that stuff.
I don't care. The dog doesn't care. What is it?
No.
What's the problem?
No,
What's the problem here?
We're imposing our human standards on
It's
this
so silly.
animal. They're fine with it.
Yeah, they're totally fine with it.
What is the protocol with flying with Bo these days? Like, how does that go?
So, well, she is a registered emotional support dog and, like, licensed and all that. But they, as of February 28th, are not allowing emotional support animals to fly on the plane with you anymore.
Yeah.
So she's going to have to go as a pet in the kennel below, which I've never done, and I'm very nervous. But
what are you going to do? Sedate her?
I mean, not like fully, but she has these little, like old lady meds. Like, I'm like, I don't know what, I can't do that. But she has these old lady dog treats called Quiet Moments. And she's going to, I know, the name cracks you up. Like, to me, that's like the funniest part about it. It's like,
I want some of those.
Quiet Moments.
Maybe that's what proper is.
Proper's
like the human version. Quiet Moments.
Yes, that's exactly it.
That's
and
hilarious.
Bo has like 2 of those, and she's just like, chill. So I'm going to give her some quiet moments. Yeah, it's 5 hours. Like my mom was like, that's how long she sleeps on the couch. And like, or that's how long she sleeps at nighttime. She's fine.
Can you put a camera in there and see what they do? Because I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like, how is the airline doing all that?
I don't know. But I feel like people do this, right?
Oh yeah. I just am curious. Mm-hmm. I mean, the animals are fine, I'm sure, but...
Okay, right. Make me nervous. I wasn't nervous, and now I'm nervous. Jeez, crazy.
No, because I'm just sort of... It's a fascinating process.
Yeah, like, is it cold down there? What's it like?
That's what I want to know. That's what I'm saying.
Is she going to be freezing?
Maybe she needs a sweater.
She might. She definitely needs some blankies, and oh, my little baby Bo.
She'll
be
fine.
Have so much fun in Costa Rica playing with my mom's dog. Oh
totally
my God, just getting free to just no. Can you imagine going from a teeny tiny apartment in Los Angeles where you don't ever get to really like run around in the grass and like play in the like ever, and then she's gonna go for 2 weeks to Costa Rica and just be a Costa Rica dog. Oh my God, I'm gonna want to come back home, and she's gonna be like, no, I'm staying.
Well, didn't you tell me that she was a street dog somewhere? Mm-hmm. So maybe this is like returning home in a way.
Mm-hmm. She was found on the streets, and now she's returning to the streets. She's gonna you know how Bo is now? She's like, oh, this grass is wet. I'm not walking on it. That's how she is. She's turned it. She's super like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, oh, that's dirt. Like when we were camping, she would sit right next to the tent as if to say, and I do not like this dirt. I'd like to go inside, please.
Yeah, I remember she was a real diva for that trip.
Real diva. Oh,
good. I'm glad.
So yeah,
fight for what you deserve, Bo.
There you go.
Okay. There was an article in the New York Times about President Warren G. Harding. From many moons ago.
God, I don't know a shit about presidents.
No,
I'm like, sure, that sounds like a president. I'll believe you.
It does sound like a president.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Apparently, Warren's, I think it's grandson, wanted to exhume Warren's body. Mm-hmm. I guess for some sort of autopsy situation. But... But
on what grounds?
This will annoy you for a reality show.
No.
Yes.
That doesn't seem like medical. Like, wait a sec. Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
This is so disrespectful to the dead. I can't even begin.
I knew you'd be mad.
And, like, I don't even feel attached to the human body either. Like, it's just a vessel, no biggie. But I feel like if the person wanted to be buried like that and then you did, like, come on. So this guy is like, I'm not that famous, but I got a relative who was.
Right.
And you know what? I'd like to profit off of him.
Totally.
And I got an idea. So let's go dig up his body and see if I can turn it into a TV show. I just feel like... what do they call it? Exhuming a body?
Yeah.
Doesn't it take some like laws to like exhume a body? Like what? Yes. I feel like what laws did he take advantage of?
A judge said no way, Jose, on that one.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that story ended like that. I was
too.
Like, Jesus Christ, do I have to roll my eyes at like?
It took a long time too because I was following it for a minute because this grandson partnered with a production company and they were petitioning for this to happen, and then we had to wait to hear the verdict, and I was so relieved because fuck that, man.
Yeah, no, what on earth and on what grounds? Like what could have possibly been like, oh, he was murdered, I
read it a while ago and there was some question about cause of death. I don't remember what it was, but the grandson wanted to prove something or whatever. And that would be one thing if it weren't for this entertainment concept.
Right.
Like if
you're looking to profit off of that. You
mm-hmm.
can't profit off of that. I'm sorry.
That feels so gross.
It does feel really gross and really, what's the word? When you just like take advantage of.
Yeah, exploitative.
Exploitative.
Totally.
Thank you. Yes,
and I mean, that's the whole reality genre, but.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Like a dead body? Come on, man.
Right.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
So thankfully, the judge had good sense and was like, no, thank you.
I wish we could also make it so children under the age of, like, I think you shouldn't be allowed to be on reality television if you're under the age of 18 or, like, and I don't know. I feel like
I asked Adam about that too because he worked on Dance Moms, mm-hmm. and I'm like, didn't it feel gross? Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, that because of the way these shows are produced, which is mm-hmm. often hidden from the audience, mm-hmm. where they'll say, behind the scenes, the producers will say, like, how can we get so and so to snap?
Yeah.
Like,
God,
you and I
awful.
suspect that these conversations happen, but we've
doing
never...
that to a child, or you're doing that to a mother, and it damages the relationship between the mother or even influences the relationship between the mother and the child, to me is not okay.
It's traumatic, no matter how you slice it. I mean, even when I had Christy Lukasiak from Dance Moms on 15 Minutes of Blame, and I was like, how the heck did you even manage just the sudden millions of people following you on Instagram?
Yeah.
And your daughter. Like, that is so fraught.
Yeah.
It would be almost impossible for that to be a healthy situation.
Then maybe in that particular one, it is bad, and it is like that's why I feel like everybody needs a therapist that's on there. I feel like that needs to be mandatory. It very much should be. But maybe the argument in that one is these are girls who are trying to become famous anyway for their dancing.
I mean, you can justify it because it does give them opportunities
I don't like doing that.
And whatever, but you have to acknowledge the ways that it can be harmful, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what is absolutely the opposite of harmful, and that is KiwiCo. I love this company, and I'm so excited to work with them because, I mean, if you're a parent or know a child during the last year, you know how difficult it has been to keep children engaged in learning and not be addicted to screens. And so that's why I love KiwiCo. It's such a great subscription to get kids to be creative, to learn about science and art and geography, and it's all hands-on. And each box that's delivered right to your door is designed for their age group, and then it teaches them stuff, but like they don't know they're teaching them anything. Like the kids are just having fun, and they are excited to get it, and they're excited to work on the project. And it just encourages kids to be innovators and creative thinkers. Lincoln's about to turn 9, and so he's going to be in the Tinker group, and I think he's going to love it because I saw some of those boxes, and they look so cute. We did a claw machine. We've done stuff to look at the stars, and it's just really, really a nice thing to keep kids engaged. And they have a great deal. KiwiCo is redefining learning with hands-on projects that build confidence, creativity, and critical thinking skills. There's something for every kid or kid at heart at KiwiCo. Get 30% off your first month plus free shipping on any crate line with code BRAINCANDY at kiwico.com. That's 30% off your first month at kiwico.com, promo code BRAINCANDY. Such a great gift, or if you have kids, such a nice thing to get for your kids.
You know, I was in this workshop for a continuing education for therapy, and they were talking about, this woman was talking about narcissism and how people become narcissists and the different kinds of narcissism, and how it's a lot of like feeling not good enough and feeling a lot of shame, and how narcissists can often come from like perfectionist parents who only praise their child or give their child attention when they're doing well. And I thought in my mind, and also it was on a bunch of different personality disorders and different ego states. And one of the other things they were talking about was like identity disorders, and how parents who were distracted and weren't able to be there or recognize the child's needs in the moment, how that can even cause disorders later in life, and how that is traumatizing to a child. And I didn't get the answer for this because there's a whole bunch of questions, but I posed the question in the chat of like, just your predictions about the future. Do you think social media and parents' distraction with social media and the rise of people feeling like they only need to do, like, is it worthy of going on the gram? Is it worthy of taking pictures? Like, kind of like Dance Monkey Dance, like parents looking at their kids and being like, do something that's funny enough for me. Kids feeling like they need to perform or feel like they need to do, that they're not just, is it good enough to go on Instagram? Is it good enough to go on TikTok? That's not that. I see a wave of narcissism later and some real problems with that. and it just feels like more of that.
Is it the case that narcissism is not inborn? It is developed or triggered?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's a what do they call them? Behavioral disorder.
That it's learned.
Yeah. It's like condition of your upbringing. You can probably have traits that are more like narcissistic, but it is a survival it's not like a disorder. It's a personality disorder, not a like medical, like a disorder like depression
that you're born with, or
that is like a chemical thing. Yeah,
that's crazy.
But
because
the good news is you can work on it.
You can work on it.
Yes, you can heal those things. That's what I was in the workshop for, to learn the interventions and the type of therapies that you would use to work on this. The problem is narcissists very rarely get into therapy, but it's very nice because it always makes me feel like, okay, good, I'm not too high of a narcissist, because I love putting myself in therapy. So,
okay.
Yeah. I'm really see. Maybe I have my notes on and see what there. It was really interesting. I was like, oh my God, that's mind blowing that it was about, it had more to do with like the shame, and there was like two different kinds of narcissists.
So these things can develop because of the ways in which one was rewarded with attention or praise their whole life.
Narcissism, self-centered, defensive, must be right, between angry and charming. They kind of oscillate between angry and charming. When they're in a collapse state where they're like kind of at their lowest, they're regressed. They're full of shame and self-loathing. It's always an attachment issue.
They're self-loathing?
And the shame is often linked. We often see this in upper middle class families. Kids get attention only for accomplishments or looking good and happiness. What they learn is only my goodness is okay. And they're punished for their needs. The child rejects the needy, empty, unlovable part.
Wow.
Yep. And it says huge defenses around shame. Yep. Those were just some notes I took.
All right. So as a parent, it's about not punishing your child when they're imperfect.
Correct.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the effort. And also saying, like, that's okay, you didn't do well. I suck sometimes too. I can't get it right all the time. That's okay.
That's okay, one of the reasons why I was so happy that Adam agreed to get piano lessons along with Lincoln and I.
Oh, yeah.
Because I want him to see, like, I've taken piano lessons many years before, so it's different. I'm at a different level. But Adam's never learned, so I thought it was so good for Lincoln to see that failure's okay and part of the process.
Yep. That's so critical. Kids have to see people not doing well.
Yeah, right? And it's like, cool,
look, they're
fine.
struggling and they're okay.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That makes me feel good.
You're doing great.
I truly did not know that narcissism was not how someone was born.
No, it's definitely a product of attack. I think that there maybe there's some people who are in the school of thought that, you know what, if you talk to a psychiatrist, they might say something different.
Well, and it is mysterious. I'm sure we don't have all the answers.
It's nature versus nurture kind of thing again. But we do know, attachment issues and attachment injuries, things that happen between this. We see this with if there were needs not being met, then it puts the child. You know where we see this too? In the have you ever seen the video of the blank face test with the kid?
No.
Okay, Google this, guys. So there's a study that's done. And the mom, and there's a baby that's probably like 4 months old. The mom's interacting with the baby, and they're like, the baby points at something. Mom looks where the baby's pointing. Mom, like recognizes, yes, I see what you're, and they're interacting and they're sharing and they're connected. Mm-hmm. Then mom turns away and looks back at the baby, but doesn't respond. Baby does things. Mom just has a still, like a blank face. Okay. Like just like staring at them with no expression.
Okay.
In about, oh my God, I get goosebumps. It makes me want to cry. I cried when I watched this video. In about 10 seconds, you see this baby go into full like panic, like starts doing that loud baby scream that like get my attention, starts crying, because it knows that my needs aren't met, and then it just goes into full panic. And then mom, and even in just the 30-second one, like there's another one that I think is like 8 minutes that I'm like, oh, how could they do that to a kid? I don't even think it's okay. But for 8 minutes, and you can see how traumatic that is.
Oh
Imagine if the baby's crying and mom is on fucking Instagram or scrolling through Twitter and not looking. And
I remember one of our early episodes when, we were kind of having this debate about parents on their phones. Mm-hmm. And I was making a joke like if I'm watching my kid play soccer, it's like, you score a goal, maybe I'll look up. Because, a lot of parenting can be very boring.
Yeah.
And it is hard to be engaged all the time. Well, especially this year, my God. Like, we're all tapped out. But it is so true that those cues that you get from your parents are formative.
Yep. And when we miss those, when the baby doesn't get those.
Oh my God.
It tells them that they can't rely on others. And then they need to do things like there's, it's a whole bunch of different stuff. It says they need to develop a part of them that maybe is like the protector that protects them from, I don't know, scary things out there in the world that their parents don't protect them from.
Oh my God.
And that can show up as anger and,
No pressure, parents.
Right. No, they're doing fine. Everybody's doing fine.
Doing fine.
If you're just be there for your kid and let them know that
you're fine.
They can fail. And
if you're worried about it, you're doing fine.
Yes, that is, there you go.
Okay. First of all, I want to introduce a guest.
Oh, yay.
That I interviewed. I'm super excited about. But before I do that, I want to encourage people to try Honey. Honey is an awesome site that
Wait a sec. Do you like saving money?
Yeah.
Then you will like this. The end.
I've been using Honey for years and years and years. It is so great. It's a totally free browser extension that scours the internet for promo codes and then applies the best one to whatever you already have in your cart. And I promise you, it's not invasive or annoying in any way because I wouldn't use it if it were. It is so awesome. I have saved tons of money from all kinds of places where I would be shopping anyway. Usually I use it for clothes or furniture, stuff for your house, whatever. And it saves so much money. I promise you. This was another thing that I've used it for. On Amazon, you can add a Honey watch thingy alert.
Yes.
So if you're thinking about buying something, but you have time to wait, it'll send you an email and let you know when the price has gone down. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, it's great.
Who doesn't have a wish list built somewhere?
That's what I'm saying.
There you go.
Okay. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out on free savings. It's literally free and installs in a few seconds. By getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this podcast. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/braincandy. That's joinhoney.com/braincandy. So great. Okay. I interviewed my friend Dave Wedge. I had interviewed him previously for a book he wrote called... now I'm forgetting. I think it was called Finding Whitey. Wait, let me find. I don't want to say the wrong one. It was about Whitey, but Hunting Whitey.
Yeah, I remember this.
That was so fun and such a great true crime story. But now he has another book out called The Last Days of John Lennon.
Oh, man.
So excited.
Yeah.
Because
my mom is going to love this.
It's so good. He wrote the book along with Casey Sherman and James Patterson, who is like this suspense writer.
Yes.
And I thought, how are they going to retell this story that's 40 years old in a way that's fresh? And like, I know a lot about the Beatles, so I thought, I'm going to already know everything in this book. And I write to the killer, Mark David Chapman.
Oh,
so I'm
my
like,
God.
This isn't, I'm going to already know all this. I learned so much. It was so fascinating.
Oh, man, that sounds like a good future book club pick for me.
It is so good because Mark David Chapman is this mysterious figure, not unlike the conversation we just had about like narcissism and nature versus nurture, all that stuff. And you think, why would this man do this? And so the whole book, you're trying to unravel this mystery of like, why did this happen? And I always say about crime and how I write to these criminals, for me, I'm not as much interested in the who done it. We already know who done it. I want to know the why done it.
Why done it?
That's what I want to know. Like, how did you get to a point in your brain where you're like, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going for it. So anyway, Dave Wedge, you should grab this book, Last Days of John Lennon. Such a great true crime book, but also just if you're into the Beatles or just crime, all that stuff. It's really good. Welcome to the show, Dave Wedge.
Dave Wedge, welcome to the Brain Candy Podcast again. A twofer. Hello, sir.
Hi again. Nice to see you.
Last time you were on, we were talking about hunting Whitey. Today we're talking about your next. I don't know how you're so productive. It's the worst. The Last Days of John Lennon, James Patterson, Casey Sherman, and Dave Wedge. How the heck do you write so fast, dude?
Well, it's my job. So, how do you make so many podcast episodes? You work hard, and I'm lucky. You and I were talking before we went on. It's like we're lucky to do what we love. And I worked really hard to get to this point where I can write, most of the time. And, it's a treat, and I love what I'm doing. So it's not really work. What's the old saying? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
That's what they say. It's true, man. Well, whenever I think of you and Casey, because you're like this dynamic duo in my mind, you've become these true crime guys. You say that it sort of just happened. But now that you are in that world, how do you choose projects like this particular book about John?
Yeah, so the first book we did was the Boston Marathon bombing, and that was literally just me being in the right or wrong place at the right or wrong time.
Right.
Look at it. I was a reporter at the Boston Herald, and I was the lead reporter on that story for all those 2 weeks after the bombings happened, and that's how Casey and I first connected. He was coming off. He had written a book called The Finest Hours, which was about a famous Coast Guard rescue on Cape Cod in the 1950s, and that became a big Disney movie with Casey Affleck and Chris Pine. And so Casey Sherman called me after the marathon bombings and said, I think I'm going to do a book about the bombings. You were in the middle of it all. Do you want to do it with me? And as a reporter, I had had many chances to do books, and nothing that really made me like, I want to give up a year or two of my life to do this. But in this case, it was very personal to me. I covered 9/11 earlier in my career, and this was kind of the other end of that. This was kind of like two bookends of my career, like 9/11 and the marathon bombings. And I was like, you know what, it's probably time to do something different anyway. And I've always wanted to do a book. And if I'm not going to write a book about this, then what am I going to write a book about? Because I was very intimately involved in it, and I knew everybody, and I had the access. So my long-winded answer is, so that story kind of picked me. And then from there, we just kind of started getting a lot of incoming people coming to us. And we just kind of sift through the good from the bad. It's hard though, Susie, because, everyone has a great story. And, it's that one time you say, I'm too busy, that the story ends up becoming a huge story.
Yeah.
And, there is one that got away and you'll actually love this story. This is a shout out to my, a friend of mine, Holly Fitzgerald. She wrote a great book called Ruthless River. And it's about an elderly, well, now they're elderly, but in the 60s, like 1969, Summer of Love, her and her husband went on a trip to the Amazon, and their plane crashed. And they survived for like 2 months on a raft in the Amazon and got rescued by indigenous people. God. And I knew Jerry, so the husband, Jerry Fitzgerald, told me the story way back in like the 90s, early in my journalism career. And I was like, I want to write a book about that. That's a great book. And it's a movie. It's like Castaway, but with a couple, you know? And he was like, yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it. And I never ended up connecting with them on it. And then she wrote the book, and it's a huge bestseller, and it's been optioned for a movie. And
Does it make you crazy?
No, because I love them, and it's their story, and I'm so happy that she wrote it. She was an English teacher, and she ended up, she took like 20 years to write it. She just took her time and wrote it. And it's a really beautiful book. You should check it out. You should have her on. She's great.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so fascinating. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing. Like when you're picking these stories, you got to really think about it. And, Casey and I are getting better at it. And, certainly John Lennon, that's an easy story to pick.
Well, that's why I was thinking when I was reading, because I follow you on Instagram, and so I know that you're very passionate about music, which I love. And I thought, I wonder if that made it more difficult or easier. What did it feel like for you?
Kind of both, I guess. It's like, I was 10 years old when John Lennon was murdered, so I do remember it. Like I remember hearing about it on, actually the Patriots were playing the Dolphins that night of Monday Night Football, and Howard Cosell broke the news.
Right, famously, yeah.
And I was watching the game with my dad. I was 10 years old, and I remember it. And I was a huge Beatles fan at the time. I still am, but at the time I was like obsessed. I had the poster on my wall of the John Lennon at the white piano, and I had the Let It Be poster, and I was just like a Beatles nerd when I was a little kid. And it was like the first big celebrity death that really impacted my life. So I had a natural passion for this material. But then separate from that, as an investigative journalist who's covered, hundreds of murders in my life, I felt like there was a lot to dig into there on the psychology behind Mark David Chapman, how the case unfolded, the forensics, all that stuff. And reading those psych evals was mind-blowing for us.
Right. Yeah, that was the part. I have so many compliments because the book was so great, and you did such an amazing job at providing the
content. James Patterson is easy,
You guys are a good team. Because, how do you make a story that's been told so many times fresh? You did an amazing job, but I wondered how the heck you did that.
So Casey and I have been doing this now several times. We did it with the marathon story. There were several other books that were written about that, but we just kind of skate our lane, and we try to find the story that we think is the most compelling and that maybe people don't know. And we just did the same thing with the Whitey Bulger story. There's been many, many books written about Whitey Bulger, but no one had written the story that we wrote, which is his life on the run, how he got captured, and how he was murdered in prison. And so we just kind of hyper-focused on that part of the story and developed those characters and developed those details. And that's kind of what we did here with John Lennon. We were like, look, it's the 40th anniversary coming up. There's not a lot about the John Lennon case that people don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what? If we go back and re-interview everyone connected to the case that we can possibly find, we're going to find something new that's never been told. And I think there's a lot of those little nuggets in this book. One person I sat down with was a guy named Sean Strub. He's now a mayor in some small city in upstate New York. He was like a 22-year-old young gay man living in the Upper East Side at that time, and he lived right around the corner from the Dakota, and he was the first witness on the scene. He had given some interviews before, but some of the stuff he told us he's never talked about. And so just to sit down with someone that, he described seeing John Lennon picked up off the ground by the EMTs and put on the stretcher, and when they put him down, I hate to be gross, but like blood shot out of John Lennon's chest, and he said he could never shake that image of seeing blood explode from John Lennon's chest. And, that's a very visual description,
Yes. And as a reader, I felt like that. And I felt like you honored the story, but made me feel like I was hearing something I had never heard. And I've read about this story a million times, just like everyone else. And I wanted to compliment you, too, about how beautifully you wove in the references to their music within the character. Like when you talked about how Mark was holding the warm gun and then he was happy, and how he said he was going to shine on. Like you did a great job of how Mark seemed to, I don't know, how do you understand it in terms of like his relationship to the music and the story. Did you feel like he had a weird connection there?
I do. So I think another piece of his story, why it's relevant today, is because a lot of the issues that are the thread that runs through the murder of John Lennon exist today still. Mental illness, gun control, infatuation with celebrity and media, and I think those are the issues that drove Mark David Chapman, isolation, loneliness, things that people still suffer today, even though that we're all interconnected with social media. Some people feel lonelier than ever before, because they feel like everyone else is doing something cooler than them. And I think there was an element to that to Mark David Chapman where he felt like there was other people doing cool stuff and he was a loser and a nowhere man, to borrow a term. And he grew up on the Beatles. His first record was Meet the Beatles. His dad bought him a guitar and he wanted to play music. And he was just kind of a failure and kind of a nobody. And then as he got older, he became a religious fanatic. And as he got older, he learned about the comment John Lennon had made earlier in his career about the Beatles being bigger than Jesus. Mm-hmm. And when he heard that, that made him really angry, and he hated him now he started hating his idol. But the music was still speaking to him in different ways. And, there's a lot to unpack there with his mental state. He was diagnosed bipolar, schizophrenic, paranoid delusional, high anxiety, you name it. He was diagnosed with it. We read hundreds of pages of psychiatric evaluations of Mark David Chapman, and each more, sad and disturbing than the last,
Because I've been reading a lot about how, the incels, as they call themselves online, are so active and consequential culturally now. But when I was reading his story, that's what it reminded me of, these guys that are just sort of floundering. And
definitely. The weird thing that I found with Mark David Chapman, though, was that he had a lot of romantic relationships.
Right.
He always had a girlfriend. He always had a wife. He wasn't this incel that was frustrated and hated the world because he couldn't have intimate connections with humans. He did have relationships, but his family relationships were very damaged. No relationship with his father. His mother was no relation there, really. He had a sister, and they drifted apart. And he, kind of drifted around, Georgia and then off to Hawaii. And, the religious zealotry, that's another thing we're dealing with currently in this country. That was a big part of the story, too. He was a religious zealot. And, again, the infatuation with celebrity. Now, remember, he didn't only want to kill John Lennon. He had a long list of people. And in fact, one thing that we wrote about in the book that I really didn't know. I know it's been out there, but I don't think too many places have gotten into it as deep as we did. But he actually went to the 1980 election night events of Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter and was going to kill one of them. And he had his gun at the hotel. His plan was to kill one of them. He didn't know which, but he wanted to kill one of them. And obviously he ended up not doing that. And that's when he went back. But he flew with the gun, brought it back to Hawaii, told his wife he threw the gun in the ocean, but he didn't. He kept it, and then flew back a couple weeks later and killed John Lennon.
Didn't you think it was kind of bonkers how when he was back in New York intending to kill John, that he kept bumping into all these celebrities? And
I don't think that was an accident.
Why?
Because I think he had other celebrities on his list, and I think he knew where they hung around, and I think he was waiting for the right opportunity to kill the right celebrity.
Yeah, because you said, after he bumped into Robert Goulet, that if he had killed him, that it wouldn't provide the desired effect. So what do you think the desired effect was specifically?
I think it was to shock the world and change the world, and I think, the quote Mark David Chapman says is that, he did change the world. He really did.
He did.
He killed the voice of a generation. And there's a lot of things. John Lennon was a very complicated person too. There's been a lot that's come out with him in more recent years about what kind of a noble person he may or may not have been. He certainly had his issues with misogyny in his life. But then he was. I believe that was a lot of that was in his younger years. When he got older, he was very humbled by the birth of his son Sean. And I think that, Yoko Ono was his muse, and he really he looked up to her in many ways and lived his life based on what he thought Yoko wanted him to do. I think the sad part about the story to me, the tragedy, is that he was just kind of getting his life
right.
to what it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
He went through all this crazy stardom and this, these crazy, being excommunicated by the government for his marijuana arrest and being, persecuted in the media for being this fruitcake hippie and all this stuff. And he went dark for a long time and just became a dad and a husband. And he was happy doing that. And then he finally emerged, and that's when he was murdered. That's kind of a big tragedy.
Do you know why he had that premonition that he thought he was going to be killed by gunshot? Like, what do you think made him believe that?
Well, I mean, we report in the book, you probably caught, that there was a threat on his life from some political extremists that were threatening to kidnap him and his family and hold him hostage and potentially kill him. I think there's that, but I think, you listen to a song like Happiness is a Warm Gun, and that's kind of about, it's about gun violence, and you got Rocky Raccoon, which is a song that talks a lot about guns. And I think just growing up in that era and seeing all the assassinations that he saw, JFK, Martin Luther King, Robert F. Kennedy, he lived through all that. That was his time, he lived, and I think he was a central figure to the peace movement during Vietnam. And I think he got a lot of death threats during that time. So I think he was always scared. It's funny. I think he was always wary that someone would try to kill him or assassinate him for whatever reason, whether it's a crazed fan or some political person. But at the same time, he lived his life like a man of the people.
Yeah, he was so accessible.
He didn't have much security,
Which that paradox, fits him, I think, where he sort of felt like this was his fate, but he was also committed to being normal or accessible.
Yeah, I think so, and I think even to this day, the thing that's funny, when Casey and I went down to the Dakota during our research for this book, we talked to a lot of people. We talked to the doorman and, all sorts of people that live at the Dakota currently. And Yoko Ono still lives in that building. And I believe she's 90 years old now. We didn't have the opportunity to see her, but a lot of people down there at Strawberry Fields and at the building tell us that she comes out regularly and walks around Strawberry Fields and goes and meets with John's fans. And she's a person of the people as well now,
Was there someone that agreed to speak to you that you were surprised by?
Well, we were able to have some conversations with Paul McCartney, which were good. Casey handled that, so I can't exactly give you too much insight, but we were pleasantly surprised that Paul wanted to weigh in and talk about his friend and tell us how much he loved him and he missed him. And just to hear that was enough for me, other than that, we were able to talk to people like someone like Todd Rundgren, who was a big star in the around the 70s. And he was actually one of Mark David Chapman's original targets as well.
Did you speak to Mark?
No, I spoke to his wife.
How'd that go?
Not well. She didn't want to talk, but well. She, we communicated via letters, and then her and I had a brief phone conversation. Mark has been outspoken in the past, but I think at this point they just like to have his communications done through the parole hearings.
Yeah.
Which come up every 2 years, which is painful for, I think, Yoko and everybody else.
Do you think that it's fair that he hasn't been let out?
Do I think it's fair that he hasn't been let out? No, yeah. I don't think he should get out. No, I think he's a sick person, and I think he committed a really heinous act. And I think, I'm not a big, lock him up and throw away the key. I'm not a death penalty person, but myself personally, if, you take someone's life in such a cold, calculated, premeditated manner, you lose your rights.
Yeah, and your book does an amazing job of showing how this was not impulsive.
Right.
He mulled it over for a long time.
Several times. He planned it out. He had a million opportunities to, again, I hate to keep talking about the marathon, but it's like that was one of the things that drove us crazy and really was horrifying about the marathon bombings was that the young guy, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the younger bomber, left the backpack behind the Richard family where the 8-year-old boy was killed. And there was a video they showed during that trial that was 4 minutes of him standing there with the bomb behind the family before it went off. So he had 4 minutes to think about the consequences of his actions, and he chose to do it anyway. Similar way, Mark David Chapman went and stood at the Dakota all day long, saw John Lennon, talked to him, got his record signed, went and got lunch, came back. He had every opportunity to call it off, and he didn't.
That's when I was reading the book, you know, as a reader, you're hoping that he changes his mind, but of course you already know the ending. And I kept wanting it to go differently. Yeah. You did such a great job of describing that and making me feel like it could possibly go another way.
Thank you. I appreciate. No, it's suspense and drama is what good writing is about, I guess. And I think, you know, again, working with someone like James Patterson, he's the best at suspense and drama, and you know, and he's really become good at the true crime stuff. So we were honored to work with him on this. And I think, again, you know, what's really sad is, you know, that John Lennon was getting to a place where he was going to have a second act, you know, and what that second act would have probably been pretty amazing. And Mark David Chapman stole that from the world, you know. Did
you watch the movie last year, Yesterday?
I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list, but I heard it's great.
It is. It's really great. If you love the Beatles, of course. And there's a scene in which John Lennon, as an old man, is there. And it was so moving to me because I guess since he's suspended in time, I had never thought about like what he would be like now. And it's so moving because of what you're describing. Like he was just getting started, it felt like.
Well, I think, you know, you listen to Ringo and Paul talk these days, and, you know, Paul was on Howard Stern recently, and Ringo does some interviews, and I think Ringo just downsized everything, like sold all his stuff, and, you know, these guys are 80 now. You know, they're not 60, you know? Right. So it's interesting to think about, you know, where someone like John might have been in his life at this point. And I obviously think about politically, you know, what sort of impact would someone like him might have had during this tumultuous time. You know, would he have sat on the sidelines? I doubt it. I think he would have been a leading voice on, you know, the morality of this country right now. You know?
He is missed. I wonder, whenever you were looking through the psychological files, if you felt like you better understood Mark, because he feels enigmatic to me, and I still don't really know what he was getting, what he wanted.
Yeah, that is a little frustrating part of the story, is that there is no answer.
Right.
You know, it's I think the answer is that Mark David Chapman had severe mental illness that was never treated. Well, it was treated actually at some points in his life. He went to therapy, and, you know, there was a attempted suicide in Hawaii, you know, at one point. There was a lot of red flags, but I think ultimately what he wanted was to steal John Lennon's fame, and in that sense, he kind of succeeded. And that's why I said at the beginning, you know, this was the first big celebrity death that I ever experienced in my life, but everyone subsequent has had, when there was a murder involved or something like that, there's been a similar thread where, you know, the person wanted to, and not just celebrity deaths, but like mass shootings, things like that, where there's a celebrity wish. You know, the person wants to have some impact. I mean, look, everyone in life wants to have a legacy, right? What's your legacy? Is this podcast? It's the work you've done in your life. It's the impact you've had on your kids. You know, Mark David Chapman was young. He was a young man. He was in his 20s. He wasn't 40 or 50. He threw his whole life away to make a headline.
Even though he does try to get out on parole, do you think that there's part of him that's pretty content with his life?
I do. So I you know, and the other thing we did a lot of research on was we read through all the parole hearing transcripts.
Yeah.
And what I noticed in doing that exercise was that he's evolved his position. The first parole hearing, he was more defiant and was more almost bravado, where he was like kind of proud of what he did. And as he got older, his tone got more conciliatory. And my understanding, again, from the research and some of the interviews I've read with his wife and some of the interviews, he has given a couple interviews over the years, he found God more, I guess, maybe a different God, I don't know, but he's definitely become more religious in jail, and he believes now that this is his lot in life, and if God wants him to get out, he'll get out. If he wants him to stay in, he does a lot of prison ministry work and things like that, and I know that his wife is involved in some prison ministry stuff as well, which, you know, people can say that that's, you know, a crock if they want, but myself, from having covered a lot of prison stuff over the years, a lot of people, when they're in that position, that's all they have left. And if they choose to use that time for some good, I'm okay with that. Even if they're a despicable person, I'd rather have them doing that than being like Charles Manson and floating out crazy threats from time to time, which is what he did. You know?
Right. And whenever, because I have my PhD in religious studies, so that's why I told you I had written to Mark David Chapman, because I'm intrigued by people who do these sorts of things, but then either become converted or were religious all along. And I thought I would glean some sort of insight from the conversations about religion, but I'm still sort of...
Did he write back to you?
Oh, yeah. He writes all the time.
I didn't know that.
But I never feel like I get to know him better. He started writing me last year after his parole got denied again.
Oh, wow.
I had been writing him for years.
Those letters, I want to read them.
They're not very interesting. It's like he wants me to talk to his wife, and I'm just sort of like... Yeah,
that's kind of how it went with us. It's a weird situation. I think he's, frankly, from what I gathered from everything I did with this book, he seems like just kind of a broken man who's just kind of like doing his time and knows he's going to die in prison, and he's trying. I do think that there is a true benevolence in him, that he doesn't want to hurt anyone any further.
Yeah.
I think he's very cognizant of the fact that he hurt Yoko Ono. And again, I think earlier in the process he wasn't. I think that's evolved over time. Now that he's matured, obviously. He's, 70 now, I guess?
Yeah.
60, he's in his 60s, 70s. And I think that now he, the last thing he wants is to reopen the old wounds, it seems. I mean, that could be disingenuous, but that's kind of what I got.
Right. I just felt like, I still don't get it. Because everyone wants to know why, right? But I still don't know the answer.
I don't think he has an answer. I think he was a messed up guy. I think there's deep mental illness. I think that really the findings we had in this book, and I think the reason why the book is so fun to read and interesting, is that those themes that we talked about, the gun control, the religious zealotry, it's an exploration of someone's psyche and how it culminated in this horrible, violent act that stole a voice from the world that we needed. And it's I guess part of what's incredible about the story is that you don't have a final answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's compelling. We can talk about it like this. And exactly, it will always be compelling. We spoke briefly on email about how I thought you were mainly like the true crime guy, but apparently you have also delved into the world of Tom Brady. And so we have to talk about it now. How you feeling? It's like all coming back again.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm, journalism, as a reporter, so I'm a nonfiction guy, I guess is what you can call me.
Yes.
Because we also did the Pete Frady's book about the kid who started the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
It's called Ice Bucket Challenge is the name of that book, and we're actually working on a movie on that as well. So that's amazing. A beautiful story. And so we're not just true crime. We're
like,
non-fiction.
Don't pigeonhole me, Suze.
No, I don't. We just kind of love great stories. So whatever that might be. And with Tom Brady, really, I am a Patriots fan. I grew up here, and, my dad had season tickets from when I was a little kid. And I do love the Patriots, but that's not why we did the book. We did the book because it was a huge story. This guy who was the biggest, sports celebrity in the world got this crazy case of Deflategate, which should have been like a minor equipment violation. But the league took it in a kind of a power play to crush the Patriots and crush Tom Brady. and they turned it into like a capital murder case. So that book is called 12, and it really reads more like a courtroom thriller. It's more like a Grisham novel than it is like a sports bio. Like it's not the Tom Brady bio, but
right.
You do learn a lot about him. And yeah, we got to talk to him and spend some time with him a little bit, and the crafts and all that. Belichick didn't talk to us, obviously, but with him just winning the Super Bowl again now in Tampa, we reissued the book. It came out in 2018, and it's basically about the Deflategate saga to that Super Bowl with the Atlanta Falcons where they came back from 28-3. That's the story. When he got traded to Tampa, our publisher, Little Brown, said, let's update the book and put it out as a paperback with all the drama from Tampa. So we added 3 new chapters about how his reign at the Patriots kind of fell apart, the divorce from Belichick, and how he wound up in Tampa. So now with this new Super Bowl, that book has a lot of interest. So
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's fun.
Like, is it difficult for you as a writer to interview and cover someone that you admire or, were rooting for in the sports world?
I've got a lot of practice with that because, I covered a lot of politics and a lot of news, and I would become casual friends with different, governors and mayors and DAs and defense attorneys. But I always had a hard rule. It's like, if we got really close and started hanging out socially, I would always say look, if I have to write a story that you don't like, I'm still going to write it. You have to understand that. And there was always an understanding there, and I've never held anything back or not done my job because of a personal relationship. And I certainly wasn't going to do it with Tom Brady. And, Casey and I said when we started that book, we're both fans. And I was like, we talked to the publishers, look, we just want to make sure that, if we find something out about Brady that's unflattering, we're putting it in the book. This isn't going to be a fanboy book. And it wasn't. I think we stuck to the facts. Some of the national writers kind of accused us of being like homers, patriot, fanboys. And it's like, if you read the book, you're not a big sports fan. I don't know if you are or you aren't, but if you may like it, you may not. But we followed the facts and we tell the whole story. And to me, it was pretty clear that the league went over and above, went out of their way to embarrass Tom Brady, try to get some revenge on the Patriots for other sins. And they used this little kind of obscure rule to do it. And it was really a power play by Roger Goodell. So, he's the Darth Vader in the story, and
that's so wild.
Because Han Solo, Luke Skywalker type.
Because, I have such distance from sports, but that was such a huge story. Even I was like, what is the big deal? What is going on here? And it did feel like a more serious crime was happening.
It literally became a federal case. It literally should have been the kind of thing where he got a fine. The ball's a little underinflated. Here's a $10,000 fine. Don't do it again. But instead, they set up the Patriots. They did this whole elaborate sting operation, leaked stuff to the media, and they turned it into a huge, literally federal case.
What was the motivation, though?
Well, longer story, but
yeah.
The motivation is that Roger Goodell needed to assert his dominance over the league, really, and Bob Kraft and the Patriots kind of got one over on him on Spygate, which was the videotaping scandal in the early 2000s. And I think that the other owners said, you know what, if you have a second chance to get the Patriots, you better do it. And he got that second chance with Deflategate. And so he kind of went all in. The other thing was that I think Roger Goodell wanted to show the whole league that, if I can bring a player of Tom Brady's stature to his knees, I'm in charge, and no one got that from me. So it was a power move.
I guess so. But it's fascinating to watch, and it's cool that your book is at least experiencing it's like a comeback, man.
It's fun, it's again, all these books are my babies. I love them all.
Cool.
It's fun to see them get new life, and we'll see. So
well, I just love it, and I love your writing. I think you're so talented. You already know that, but I hope everyone reads this, The Last Days of John Lennon. And I have no doubt you will continue on your incredible writing rampage, nonstop writing.
Well, that's nice, Susie. You guys are great supporters, and I love what you and Sarah are doing with the show. And
thank you.
As I told you, my wife loves it, so it's fun stuff. And I think it's important that you guys are, doing what you're doing. We're all storytellers, and people we're all locked in our house. People need content, so let's keep giving it to them, right?
That's right. We give the people what they want. Thank you so much, Dave Wedge. You're the best.
Thank you.
You are off the hook, my friend.
Did you know that everyone has an aura? Do you know what color your aura is? Maybe you have a fiery red personality or a quiet and calm blue or green. You could be an organized and methodical yellow or an explosive purple. Come join me, Mystic Michaela, on my podcast, Know Your Aura, to find out all about how your personality can be explained in colors.